So hello there. This video is intended for violists. However, if you are interested in seeing how the treble clef and the alto clef can play nicely together, then this also can be for you. So sit back, relax, and if you are a violist out there, maybe pay attention, take some notes, and here we go. We're reading the treble clef, also known as being a super cool violist. We'll start with a quick review of the alto clef. As we all know, the alto clef's nickname is the C clef. The middle line there is C, and in fact, there's two backward C's on the clef, and they point to that middle line, which again, middle C, middle of the line. It's also exactly in the middle of the treble clef and the bass clef if you were to look at it on the grand staff. So you can assume then the alto clef is also exactly in the middle of the treble clef and the bass clef. And like all clefs, the notes go in alphabetical order, up and down from middle C. And again, using context clues, it means that you're going from about halfway down the bass clef up into the treble clef. So again, alto's right there in the middle. Like all other staffs, we have ledger lines. So as you go lower and higher, and sometimes way higher than the staff, you have these notes on the alto clef, and it gets tricky sometimes to read a bunch of ledger lines. And here we see them going above the staff. You're getting up there towards 5 ledger lines. And if you had a long string of notes, like a whole melody or something that's played up that high, it gets tricky to read with all those ledger lines. Is this 4? Is this 5? And if it jumps around, what do you do? So we want to make things easy. And basically, we're just trying to avoid all of those ledger lines. And to do that, we go up into the treble clef. Essentially, we're moving the ledger lines from the alto clef up into their own staff. How does it work? Well, if we take the two clefs and superimpose them on each other, the alto and the treble clef share two of their same staff lines. We can see that what would be the first ledger line above the staff in the alto clef is actually the middle line in the treble clef. And in this case, it's the note B, first finger on the A string. And in fact, the alto clef brings us together. All of orchestra's clefs surround the alto clef. It's kind of like the glue that keeps everything together. And like I said, it can play violin notes as well as cello notes. It's quite a versatile instrument and quite a versatile clef. But going back to the treble clef aspect of it, you'll notice that the alto clef, that all of those notes on ledger lines are on lines in the treble clef, and all the notes on ledger spaces are on spaces in the treble clef. So it's a direct correlation, 1 to 1. They're not tricking you or throwing curveballs, it's just the same thing. Furthermore, the fingering for the treble clef can be considered the same as you have in the alto clef, but in order to think that way, you have to know third position in the alto clef. Now, bear with this. To me personally, it's a strange way of going about it, but it works for some people. And I know some people who, when they go from violin to viola, use this sort of method as well. But again, you have to know third position. So let's check it out. If you look at the treble clef notes, but pretend you're in the alto clef, first of all, you'd have the notes C, D, E, and F. If you pretended that you were in third position on the G string, you would get the fingerings 1, 2, 3, 4. That C would be a 1 in third position, the D 2, the E 3, the F 4. But of course, you're actually doing 1, 2, 3, 4 in the treble clef on a different string in a different position. So I don't know if that'll help everybody. It might be more confusing, but for some of you, that might make sense, especially if you know third position. So use what you can. It's always good to see things from a different point of view. But to wrap up, just some thoughts on the treble clef. Generally, the treble clef is used when you're playing higher up on the A string. And you're not going to have to go too much higher than the third position for this, especially what we play in orchestra class in high school. The parts aren't that high. But you do go there. Think of learning back in 8th grade, or think of that gold book that we have, the advanced techniques. Think of just the basic G major scale. You're going into third position all the time. And it's nothing too crazy. And we see here that G major scale, that thing that we play there in the alto clef, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. you're going to have to shift. And in this case, you're probably going to shift into third position in the third measure on that first note, the D, and 1, 2, 3, 4, D, E, F sharp, G. You can translate that directly into the treble clef, which is above it. And there you have that whole scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Exactly the same notes, same lines, same spaces. The only difference is, of course, we're in the treble clef, and you lose all of those ledger lines. Just to play a simple G major scale, you get 3 ledger lines. If you do it in the treble clef, you get none. So really, it's not that scary. And hopefully knowing what it is, why you use it, and that it doesn't automatically mean going way up into the stratosphere on your instrument will make the treble clef more reasonable, more exciting, and more fun to play. And of course, it will make you a super cool violist.